Nobody knew it at that moment, but Noah Verbruggen had been protecting his family by staying silent about something that was slowly destroying his own life. The fluorescent lights in the warehouse hummed their usual 3 a.m. symphony. Noah stood alone among the shipping containers, his scanner beeping rhythmically as he logged inventory numbers. 20 years old, third year of his industrial engineering program, and here he was, night after night, in a job that paid just enough to keep things stable. His phone buzzed. Mom! He let it ring. She would call again in exactly 4 minutes. She always did. But here's what nobody knew yet. The real reason Noah worked nights wasn't about tuition. It was about distance. About having legitimate excuses to miss family dinners, Sunday brunches, holiday gatherings. Because every time he sat at that table, the weight of what he knew pressed harder against his chest. The scanner beeped an error. Noah blinked, refocused. His supervisor rarely checked the overnight logs anyway. That was why Noah liked this shift. Invisibility had become his greatest skill. Wait, let me take you back. Because the thing about family secrets is they never start as secrets. They start as small compromises. For Noah, it started when he was 14. His older sister Emma had just gotten into medical school. The celebration was loud with relief and pride. His parents had remortgaged the house to cover the costs, but nobody talked about that part. What Noah didn't know then was that his name was already on documents he'd never seen. The thing that makes this truly disturbing hasn't even surfaced yet, because Noah wasn't abused. Nobody hit him. Nobody screamed. There was no villain in this story, and that was precisely what made it so suffocating. His parents loved him. Emma loved him. They were, by all external measures, a good family. And Noah loved them too. That was the trap. When he was 16, his father sat him down with a stack of papers. College fund documents. Trust papers. Insurance forms. His father's hand was steady and warm on his shoulder, explaining that this was just smart planning. That Noah was the responsible one, the steady one. All he needed to do was sign here, and here, and here. Just paperwork. Just family taking care of family. Noah signed. He was good at being responsible. But this is where everything you think you understand starts to crack. Because those weren't just college fund transfers. They were liability shields. When Noah turned 18, his name became the legal holder of the family's restructured debt. Not in a criminal way. Nothing illegal happened. His father worked in financial consulting. He knew exactly how to make it work within the system. The family business had been struggling, had taken out loans they couldn't repay. All of it, every single obligation, every creditor claim, had been legally transferred to Noah, who had signed everything years ago, trusting the warm hand on his shoulder. And here's what nobody at that family dinner table knew. Noah couldn't go to the doctor because he couldn't risk any medical debt. He couldn't apply for most scholarships because his credit profile was already damaged. He couldn't move out because his address was tied to business registrations he didn't operate. His father called it temporary. A bridge period. 2 years, maybe 3. Emma didn't know. David didn't know. Even his mother only partially understood. Noah worked nights because the money went directly to keeping collectors from escalating. Because if he didn't, the calls would start coming to the house. The truly haunting part? They still asked him for things. Could he cover David's car insurance this month? Could he help with the electric bill? They asked with such casual trust. Because Noah always said yes. He was the responsible one. His silence had become a family asset they didn't know they were exploiting. Now at this point you're probably wondering why he didn't just tell them. But that question means you haven't understood the invisible architecture of this kind of control. They hadn't done it to hurt him. His father genuinely believed he was being strategic, protective. They weren't monsters. They were just people who had made him into a solution without asking if he wanted to be one. And Noah had learned something terrible about himself. He would rather disappear than make them face what they'd done. Because if he told them, he would become the villain, the ungrateful son. But we haven't gotten to the worst part yet. The night Marcus found him passed out in the warehouse bathroom. The migraine had been building for 3 days. Marcus called 911. Noah woke up in an ambulance, already knowing the financial crater this would create. When they asked for his insurance information, he said he didn't have any. The family plan had dropped him when he turned 19. Nobody had mentioned it. The really disturbing thing was the conversation 3 days later. His father came to his apartment. Not angry. Concerned. He'd heard about the hospital visit. His father asked why Noah hadn't told them he was struggling. Noah said things were just tight. That he was handling it. His father nodded, relieved. Then he asked if Noah could sign something new. A business registration renewal. Just routine paperwork. Noah signed. Because the alternative was explaining. And explaining meant destroying the entire careful fiction they'd all been living inside. The moment that would eventually break everything happened on a Tuesday. Noah's phone rang. Unknown number. A collections attorney. They had a judgment against Noah for $23,000. Noah stood next to his car in the gray morning light and felt something fundamental shut down inside him. But nobody could have predicted what Noah did next. He drove to the university library and started reading. Legal blogs, debt law forums, case precedents, and what he learned made his hands shake. Everything his father had done was legal. Technically, there was no crime to report. Just a series of decisions wrapped in the language of family trust. The truly chilling realization came hours later. Noah could fix this legally. But doing so would trigger investigations into his father's business practices. Emma's medical school funding could be questioned. The entire family financial structure would collapse, and everyone would know what they'd done to him, and what he'd done to them by exposing it. This is the part where most people would expect the confrontation. But that's not what happened. Because speaking up didn't free him. It just redistributed the suffering. So instead, Noah made a different choice. He started saying no. Small no's at first. Can't cover the electric bill. Can't sign that renewal. Can't make Sunday dinner. Each no felt like pulling a tooth. But Noah kept saying no. The family meeting happened 6 weeks after the collections call. Everyone gathered at his parents' house. They were all very calm, very concerned. His father slid a paper across the table. One more signature and they could restructure again. Family takes care of family. Noah looked at the paper, looked at their faces. All of them waiting. All of them certain he would sign. Because he always did. Noah stood up, walked to his car, drove away. Didn't sign, didn't explain, just left. Noah used his savings to pay for a debt attorney consultation. The lawyer drew up a simple document, a formal refusal of any future obligations. Clean, quiet, legal. The letter arrived at his parents' house on a Thursday. Noah didn't accuse anyone, just stated clearly that he would no longer be signing documents or accepting financial responsibilities that weren't his. Then he waited. The response came from his father. Hurt, confused, defensive. Noah replied with one line. I love you, but I can't do this anymore. The thing that broke his mother's heart was when Noah asked her to leave his apartment. She stood in his doorway, tears in her eyes, and said, but we're family. Noah looked at her and said, yes, we are. That's why this hurts so much. Then he closed the door. The aftermath wasn't dramatic. Emma eventually called, angry at first, then quiet as Noah explained. She hadn't known. David apologized, said he should have noticed. Noah forgave him easily. The relationship with his parents remained fractured. His father still didn't fully accept he'd done anything wrong. Noah stopped trying to make them understand, maintained polite distance, kept his boundaries firm. 2 years later, Noah graduated, got a good job, started paying off the debts that were legitimately his. The migraines decreased once the constant stress lifted. He built a life that was his, small, quiet, earned. The truly unexpected part came when Emma had her first child. She called Noah from the hospital, asked if he wanted to meet his nephew. Noah went, and Emma said quietly that she'd been thinking about what Noah had said, about boundaries, about what family should mean. She didn't want her son growing up in a system where love was measured in silent suffering. Noah felt something like hope. Here's what Noah learned that nobody tells you about breaking family cycles. You don't get a clean ending. You just get the quiet, difficult work of deciding who you are outside of who they needed you to be. Some people will never understand why you had to leave, and you have to let them think that. Because the alternative requires they feel the full weight of what they did. So you carry your truth alone. You build boundaries. You protect the person you're becoming. Noah still works night shifts sometimes, not because he has to, but because he likes the quiet. He scans inventory, logs numbers, and knows that the weight on his shoulders is only what he chooses to carry. And that small freedom, that basic dignity of choice, is worth everything he lost to gain it. A word of wisdom: the deepest prisons are built with love and good intentions. Breaking free doesn't mean you stop loving the architects. It just means you finally love yourself enough to leave ***.